Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints will open up preseason this weekend with the defending champs, the Chiefs, in New Orleans. It'll be Sunday and noon kickoff. Jon Stinchcomb, former Saint, does a great job on those preseason broadcasts. Good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Hey, Jon, we appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited about the season.
Man, I think most people are right there with you. Do you like a compressed preseason, the 3 games instead of the 4?
Only because of the way the preseason evolved in the NFL over the past few years. That 4th game became more than obsolete. So it only made sense to move to the 3-17 versus the 4-16.
You know, you were a guy that played 90 career games. I mean, you came into the Saints as a second-round pick back in 2003. So, I mean, it was never like you were trying to win a roster spot, initially. I mean, you were obviously someone who's going to come in and make a key impact. When you look at the value of the preseason, though, with this Saints team in particular, what are the spots, maybe positions, where you think there are guys that actually have – maybe it's a position, or if there are players that you think are really pushing for a roster spot? Where are the most interesting battles?
Well, I think you start up front, and you can look at both sides of the ball and see some young players that just need the reps. Penning is case number one and great example of a guy who – when he came out of college, what you knew about him was that he had a very high ceiling, but needed a ton of reps. And because of injuries, wasn't able to get as many as you would want in that first season. So for a guy that you have to figure is going to be a part of the starting 5, these preseason games are going to be really vital for his preparation as you head into week 1. So offensive line is a key, and then you flip the ball to the other side of the ball, and Brian BREC is a guy that, if you're going to spend a high draft pick on an interior defensive lineman for a team that's perennially cash-strapped, you're going to need him to step in and contribute. So getting up to speed and understanding what the expectations can be and should be from young players, I think you could even throw Peyton Turner into the mix as guys that just need the reps and that opportunity to get up to speed for week 1. And whether it's in the scrimmages where you get with teams, which we'll see later in this preseason, or an actual preseason game, you can feel an increase in the speed and tempo, and it feels much more like a regular season game, which is vital for these guys as they prepare.
Jon, so many people, when I ask that question, would default right to like wide receiver. I'm so glad that you went to the trenches. I had no doubt that you probably would. But and I was going to ask you about Trevor Penning. So as a guy that played tackle in this league, tell me what you see in Trevor Penning. And is it realistic to assume that that's a guy that could, right now, at this point in his career, win the starting left tackle job?
Yeah, I think they need him to. I think you need him to. And really, they've had a luxury in Hurst because of his flexibility, and he is an NFL veteran through and through. I mean, he's a guy that's been reliable and was probably asked more than what was expected when he signed, and it's really served him well and the Saints well, as his versatility and his ability to step in and play at a high level. Now, if Penning is ready, potentially at left tackle, and you watch him play and you see all the characteristics of a guy that could be a cornerstone for a long time. There are going to be growing pains, and you're just going to have to bear with it and hope that he gets up to speed sooner rather than later. But with the flexibility that Hurst offers, I think it lends itself to being able to accommodate some of those growing pains. It also, with Pete's injury and really his injury history, the Saints know that you have to have at least 6 or 7 starting caliber offensive linemen that can step in and contribute at any given time without a drop-off.
Jon Stinchcomb's with us, of course, Super Bowl champion. You mentioned Penning. I want to go deeper there if I could, like the cornerstones of being a tackle in the league. What can you go a little deeper on what you see specifically? And if I could ask, like, sort of tangentially on this, how easy or difficult is it to go left side to right side, like we've seen Hurst do. You mentioned the flexibility, and also play tackle guard, like that skill set there. Because I'm trying to see, I agree with you, like Penning has to be in there this year. Like you invested a first round pick, but it's just sort of like where is this actually going to work for him right now?
Yeah, I think there's a bigger difference in from tackle to interior offensive line in playing guard than there is left to right side. You know, the money will tell you differently, but you look at the defensive ends and the outside linebackers, the rush edge players that you face in the NFL, and right tackles see just as many of those nightmares as the left tackles do. So as long as a player can, open his hips and transition from one side to the other, I think switching between tackles is not as difficult. I don't know if difficult is the right word, but it's different. The difference in timing, the space that you use and don't have as in the interior offensive line as compared to the edge, there's a bigger difference there than just switching sides.
Great perspective. Jon, I'd love to ask you about Derek Carr and just your impressions. I don't think we're going to see him or see him much on Sunday, but I'd love your impressions of what you've seen from him so far in this camp.
He's a seasoned vet, right? So he comes in and you know what he's good at. He's got enough tape. He has enough experience where you see where he thrives. And now it's a matter of meshing, Coach Carmichael and this offense system and what the Saints consistently do well and integrating into what he consistently does well. And when you have a variety of pieces that the Saints have acquired and continue to add to around that quarterback position, it's a matter of getting on the same page and figuring out what's the best combo and deployment and how can we utilize these players to the best of their ability. And, with Carr, the way he comes in, he is a leader. He's each guy has his own style and that continues to emerge, but he's not one of these young guys that comes and feels like they have to either change themselves or do more than what they are, more than who they are. I think one of his best attributes is that he knows exactly who he is as a quarterback, who he is as a leader, and you can see that in the way that he conducts himself in practice and in interviews and since he's been signed. So it's a matter of getting everybody on the same page and how quickly they can do it, which, with an abbreviated preseason, at least game-wise schedule, you have to do that in the off season. And we've already heard stories of him getting with wide receivers. It's not an anomaly. I mean, that becomes a mainstay of many teams, but it's the timing things. It's the details that makes the difference between the offenses that are super proficient and those that have fits and spurts. And, with the talent that this roster has, specifically offensively, I think it's a matter of staying healthy and getting on the same page. And then you've got enough pieces that you can feel really confident that you can compete on an offensive level with any of the other 31 teams across the league.
Jon, when you became a full-time starter in 2006, you didn't miss a game the rest of your career. Did you want to play in the preseason?
I
love the line, man. There's honesty in that laughter. There's honesty there.
It's one of those necessary evils, if you will, and especially I think you recognize that you need some reps that are close to and mirror that live action, and not just in an individual rep, but what it feels like to be a part of a series, and the transitions of the game and the tempo of it, and just getting back into that form. Now, how much of it is debatable, right? I mean, there were times where you're like, all right, coach, I think I've got it. I can go ahead and give me the hat on the sideline, but didn't always see it the same way. But yeah, I think some reps is necessary for almost any player, unless you were, the Joe Thomas or Walter Jones in my era, and some that are of that same caliber in today's game. They could just walk out there and be ready any given Sunday. But for mere mortals. I think it's important to get yourself acclimated to what you can expect come week one.
Former Saint Jon Stinchcomb, good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here. Jon, we always appreciate when we get a few minutes of your time. Thanks so much. We'll look forward to visiting again soon.
I appreciate you having me on. Who dat?
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.